The massive Star Empire ship hung silently in the darkness of space, its sensors focused on the blue-green planet below. Commander Ross stood at the bridge's main viewport, his hands clasped behind his back as he studied the target. Earth looked peaceful, almost defenseless, spinning slowly against the black backdrop of space. He couldn't believe how easy this was going to be. "Sir, initial scans are complete," reported Officer Turner from his station. "We're detecting approximately 3,000 artificial satellites in orbit, most of them appearing to be primitive communication and weather monitoring devices." Ross nodded, not bothering to hide his smile. The Empire's intelligence had been correct. Earth's defenses were pathetically obvious. They hadn't even tried to hide their technology. "What about their space stations?" "Two small ones in low orbit, sir. Basic construction. Nothing that could pose a threat to our fleet." The plan was simple. The Empire would take Earth quickly, securing its resources and strategic position. The humans had shown some potential by reaching their moon and sending primitive probes to nearby planets, but they were clearly centuries behind the Empire in military technology. Meanwhile, on the far side of the moon, Admiral Stone received the alert she had been waiting for. The Empire's scout ships had finally arrived. She sat in her office deep within the Lunar Command Center, reading the latest reports from Earth's scattered sensor network. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. "Admiral," Lieutenant Wells called from his communication station, "we're picking up their scan patterns. They're falling for it. The dummy satellites are drawing most of their attention." Stone allowed herself a small smile. For decades, Earth had maintained its appearance of technological innocence. Every satellite they launched was deliberately designed to look primitive. Every space station was built to appear basic and vulnerable. It had been a long game, but now it would pay off. "What's their fleet composition?" she asked, walking over to the main tactical display. 27 capital ships, about 200 support vessels," Wells answered. "They're spreading out in standard conquest formation, just like the simulations predicted." Stone touched a control panel, bringing up a secure channel to Earth's hidden defense command. Major Baker's face appeared on the screen, looking calm despite the situation. "They took the bait," Stone reported. "Are the ground teams ready?" "All stations green," Baker replied. "Surface batteries are masked and tracking. Underground silos are armed. We can launch on your command." The Empire's invasion fleet grew larger by the hour. More ships arrived through their faster-than-light gates, each one taking position around Earth, as if they were setting up for a simple training exercise. None of them noticed that the primitive weather satellites were actually recording their every move, building a detailed tactical picture of the invasion force. From his command ship, Ross watched the deployment with satisfaction. "Begin broadcasting the surrender demands," he ordered. "All major Earth languages on their public frequencies. Let's see how quickly they break." The demands echoed across Earth's radio channels. The Empire's message was clear: surrender immediately or face destruction. They expected panic, chaos, perhaps a few token attempts at resistance. Instead, they got silence. "Sir," Turner reported, frowning at his display, "we're getting no official response from any Earth government." Ross wasn't concerned. "They're probably arguing among themselves." Primitive societies often fracture under pressure. Launch the warning shot. Target one of their larger cities with a low power beam. Show them we're serious. In her lunar base, Stone watched the Empire's ships adjusting their positions. The warning shot would never come. Every weapon targeting system they tried to power up would mysteriously malfunction, thanks to the quantum interference field Earth had secretly established years ago. The humans had learned about the Empire's technology from their own scouts, carefully hidden among alien populations. "All defense grid sectors report ready," Wells announced, waiting for final authorization. Stone checked the tactical display one last time. The Empire's ships had moved exactly where Earth wanted them, clustering in predictable patterns around the planet. Their arrogance made them vulnerable. They thought they were facing a primitive world taking its first steps into space. They had no idea they were facing a unified Earth that had been preparing for this moment for generations. "Send the coded alert to all Earth governments," Stone ordered. "Tell them to begin civilian shelter protocols." Quietly. Across the planet, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the massive fleet hanging above them. Underground, vast civil defense systems activated. Hidden bunkers opened their doors. Earth's real military installations, concealed beneath civilian structures and natural features, came to life. In orbit, Ross was growing impatient. "Why aren't our targeting systems functioning properly?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," Turner replied. "We're detecting some kind of interference, but it doesn't match any known pattern. Engineering says it's like something is actively blocking our weapons, but that's impossible. These primitives don't have that kind of technology." Ross slammed his fist on his command chair. "Launch fighters. We'll do this the old-fashioned way." The Empire's fighter squadrons deployed, their ships gleaming in the sunlight as they descended toward Earth's atmosphere. They expected to encounter minimal resistance, perhaps a few outdated jet fighters. What they didn't know was that every move they made was being fed into Earth's defense computers, updating firing solutions and tactical plans. Stone watched the fighters deploy, knowing the Empire was playing directly into their hands. "Send word to Captain Miller," she ordered. "Tell him to prepare the Mars batteries. When this starts, we hit them from all sides." The lunar base hummed with quiet activity as final preparations were made. Decades of preparation were about to pay off. Humanity had known they weren't alone in the universe for a long time, but they had kept that knowledge secret. They had watched, learned, and prepared. While other worlds built obvious defenses and flaunted their military might, Earth had chosen a different path. "Admiral," Wells called out, his voice tight with anticipation, "the Empire's fighters have reached the optimal engagement zone. All Earth defense systems are showing green. We're ready." Stone nodded, thinking of all the years of preparation, all the resources that had gone into this moment. The Empire thought they had found an easy target, a peaceful world ripe for conquest. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Send the authorization code," she ordered. "Let's show them what a primitive world can do." As the Empire's fighters began their attack runs, Earth's true defenses remained hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. The trap was set. Soon, the Empire would learn that appearing defenseless was humanity's greatest deception, and this peaceful planet was anything but helpless. The Empire's fighters streaked through Earth's upper atmosphere, their weapons ready to strike. Commander Ross watched from his command ship, expecting to see panic and chaos erupting across the planet below. Instead, the response was oddly calm. A few small military jets rose to meet them, but their movements seemed clumsy and uncoordinated. "Sir," Turner reported, "Earth's aircraft are retreating. They'd barely even try to engage us." Ross smiled. This was exactly what he had expected from such a primitive world. "Begin the second wave. Target their major military installations." He paused, then added, "The ones we can see, anyway. These humans aren't exactly subtle with their bases." The Empire's fighters dove toward their targets, sleek and deadly. They expected to find traditional military bases with obvious runways, radar installations, and defensive positions. What they found instead were mostly empty buildings and outdated equipment. On the lunar base, Admiral Stone watched the Empire's attack through multiple data feeds. "They're hitting the decoy bases," she reported to Major Baker. "How are our real forces holding up?" "All units maintaining position," Baker replied from his underground command center. "The Empire's scans still haven't detected any of our actual installations. The shielding is working perfectly." The Empire's initial strikes created impressive explosions, destroying what appeared to be key military targets. Ross watched with satisfaction as his fighters reported success after success, but something was bothering him. The humans weren't responding the way conquered species usually did. There were no mass panics, no desperate counterattacks, no emergency broadcasts begging for mercy. "Status report on Earth's communications," he ordered. Turner checked his readings. "Still mostly normal, sir. They've switched some channels to emergency broadcasts, but it's all very organized. Almost like they were expecting this." Ross frowned. In his 20 years of conquest, he had never seen a population this calm under attack. "Launch the ground troops," he ordered. "Let's see how they handle actual invasion forces." The Empire's transport ships began their descent, carrying thousands of soldiers in full battle armor. They targeted major cities, ready to establish control points and begin the real conquest of Earth. As they descended, small groups of human military forces appeared to be evacuating civilians in an orderly fashion. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Lieutenant Wells monitored the invasion from a hidden command center. "Admiral," he reported to Stone, "the Empire is deploying ground forces. They're following standard invasion protocols, just like our intelligence suggested they would." Stone nodded. The Empire's predictability was their greatest weakness. "Are they hitting the designated zones?" "Yes, Mom. They're landing exactly where we want them." The first wave of Empire troops landed in what they thought were strategic locations around the globe. They expected resistance, but found mostly empty streets and closed buildings. The few humans they encountered offered no resistance, quickly retreating into underground shelters. Ross watched the ground operation feeds with growing unease. "Something's wrong," he muttered. "This is too easy." Where are their main forces? In Washington, D.C., an Empire commander named Peters led his troops through the empty streets. Their sensors showed humans gathered in underground shelters, but no significant military presence. They'd reached the White House without facing any resistance. "Command, this is Ground Force 1, Peters reported. "We've secured the human leadership building, but it's empty. No signs of struggle, no destroyed documents, nothing. It's like they cleared out days ago." Similar reports came in from other major cities around the world. The Empire's forces found themselves capturing empty buildings and deserted government centers. Everything of real value, people, data, resources, had been quietly moved long before they arrived. In her lunar command center, Stone received the reports with grim satisfaction. "They've committed almost 60% of their ground forces," she noted. "Are the underground systems ready?" "Yes, Admiral," Baker replied. "The moment you give the word, we can seal off every landing zone. The Empire's troops won't know what hit them." Ross paced on his command ship, the feeling of unease growing stronger. "Launch our second wave of ground forces," he ordered, "and get me a deep scan of those urban centers. There has to be something we're missing." The Empire's sensors probed deeper into Earth's cities, but the quantum interference field continued to hide humanity's true defenses. What looked like simple subway tunnels and underground shelters were actually vast military complexes, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Sir," Turner called out, his voice tense, "we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the planet's polar regions." "What kind of readings?" Ross demanded. "Unknown, sir. They're like nothing in our database. And they're growing stronger." In the lunar base, Stone received the alert she had been waiting for. The Empire had finally noticed Earth's power buildup, but it was too late. Their ground forces were committed, their ships were in position, and they had no idea they were standing on top of the largest trap ever created. "Send the signal to all Earth defense forces," she ordered. "Commence Operation Payback." Across the planet, hidden doors began to open. What the Empire thought were simple civilian bunkers revealed themselves to be military strongholds. The primitive satellites in orbit suddenly began moving in perfect coordination, and deep beneath the ice of Antarctica and the Arctic, massive energy weapons powered up. Ross watched in growing horror as his tactical display lit up with thousands of new contacts. The empty cities were coming alive with military activity. The retreating human forces had been leading his troops into prepared kill zones, and the orbital space that his fleet had so confidently occupied was now filled with previously invisible defense platforms. All ships, battle stations. He shouted, but he already knew it was too late. The Empire's mighty invasion force had walked right into humanity's trap, and they were about to learn the cost of underestimating Earth. In Washington, D.C., Commander Peters and his troops watched in shock as the streets around them began to transform. Panels slid open in buildings and roads, revealing advanced weapon systems. The empty subway tunnels echoed with the sound of approaching vehicles. And above them, the sky filled with aircraft that had seemed to appear from nowhere. "Command, we need immediate evacuation," Peters shouted into his comm unit. The humans, they were ready for us. They were ready all along. Stone stood in her command center, watching as humanity's true defensive capabilities revealed themselves. Years of preparation, misdirection, and patience were about to pay off. The Empire had thought they were conquering a primitive world. Instead, they had walked into the most elaborate ambush in human history. "All units," she broadcast on the command frequency, "you have authorization to engage. Show them what Earth can really do." The world erupted into action. Hidden doors in mountains slid open, revealing massive energy weapons. The seas churned as underwater bases activated. Earth's trap was springing shut, and the Empire's forces were caught in the middle of it all. Commander Ross stared in disbelief as his tactical display lit up with thousands of new threats. The primitive satellites they had dismissed were transforming, unfolding like metal flowers to reveal advanced weapon systems. The supposedly simple weather monitoring stations were actually part of an orbital defense grid. "All ships, evasive action," Ross shouted, but the order came too late. The defense grid powered up, creating a web of energy that trapped the Empire's vessels in place. Their engines strained against the invisible force, but they couldn't break free. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Stone watched the energy grid activate. "Status report," she ordered. "Energy web at full power," Lieutenant Wells replied. "Empire ships are contained. Their engines are active, but they're not going anywhere." Stone nodded and opened a channel to Mars. "Captain Miller, are your batteries ready?" "Ready and aimed," Miller responded from his hidden base beneath the red planet's surface. "Those Empire ships won't know what hit them." On Earth, the trapped invasion forces were facing their own nightmare. Commander Peters and his troops watched in horror as the ground beneath their feet began to move. The empty streets of Washington, D.C. split open, revealing complex tunnel systems. From these tunnels emerged Earth's real military forces, armed with weapons far more advanced than anything the Empire had expected. "Command, we need immediate extraction," Peters shouted into his comm unit. The sound of energy weapons filled the air as Earth's forces opened fire. His troops scrambled for cover, but there was nowhere to hide. Every building, every street corner, had been designed as part of Earth's defense plan. Ross tried desperately to regain control of the situation. "Launch all remaining fighters," he ordered. "Target those defense platforms." The Empire's fighters roared out of their carrier ships, weapons blazing. But Earth was ready for this too. The seemingly primitive weather satellites suddenly released swarms of small, agile drones. These machines moved with impossible speed, intercepting the Empire's fighters before they could reach their targets. "Sir," Turner reported, his voice shaking, "we're detecting massive energy buildups from Mars and the Moon. They're not just defending from Earth. They've got us surrounded." In her lunar base, Stone gave the order they had waited years to give. "All planetary defense systems, you have permission to fire. Show them what humanity can really do." The surface of Mars lit up as hidden silos opened, launching salvos of advanced missiles. The Moon's craters revealed energy cannon arrays, their beams cutting through space toward the trapped Empire fleet. And from Earth, thousands of defense systems activated simultaneously, unleashing a storm of weapons that the Empire had never seen before. "Impossible," Ross shouted as his ships began taking hits. "Their technology, it's more advanced than ours." The Empire's shields, designed to stop known weapons, proved useless against Earth's defenses. Humanity had studied the Empire's technology for years, developing countermeasures for every system they had. On the ground, Earth's forces moved with practiced precision. They had trained for this moment in hidden facilities, using knowledge gained from years of secretly studying the Empire's tactics. Peters and his invasion forces found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were executing a carefully planned extermination. "Admiral," Wells reported from his station, "the Empire's ground forces are in full retreat. They're trying to reach their transport ships, but our surface-to-space weapons are preventing any takeoffs." Stone allowed herself a small smile. "Keep them pinned down. Let them see exactly what they've walked into." In orbit, the Empire's mighty fleet was being torn apart. The energy web held them in place while weapons fired from 3 different planets hammered their defenses. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by the very civilization they had dismissed as primitive. Ross watched in horror as his command display showed ship after ship going dark. "How?" he demanded. "How did they hide all this?" "Our scans showed nothing." The answer came from Earth's Combined Military Command, broadcasting on all Empire frequencies. The message was clear and devastating. "For decades, we watched you conquer peaceful worlds. We studied your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Everything you saw, everything you scanned, was what we wanted you to see. Earth wasn't defenseless. We were waiting." In Washington, D.C., Peters and his surviving troops had been forced into surrender. As Earth's soldiers approached, their advanced armor making the Empire's equipment look primitive, Peters finally understood. They hadn't invaded a weak world. They had walked into the galaxy's most elaborate trap. Stone stood in her command center, watching as humanity's years of preparation paid off. The Empire's fleet was in ruins, their ground forces captured or destroyed. Earth's defensive systems had performed even better than their simulations had predicted. "Send word to all commands," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2. Show them exactly what else we've been hiding." Across the solar system, even more hidden bases began to reveal themselves. Facilities in the asteroid belt, weapons platforms disguised as space debris, and defense systems hidden in the atmospheres of gas giants all activated. The Empire hadn't just underestimated Earth, they had failed to comprehend the full scale of humanity's preparation. Ross slumped in his command chair as his mighty invasion fleet died around him. The humans hadn't just beaten them, they had revolutionized planetary defense. Every primitive feature of Earth had been part of an elaborate deception. They had taken the Empire's greatest strength, its arrogance, and turned it into a fatal weakness. In the lunar base, Stone prepared to deliver the final message to the few surviving Empire ships. Earth's victory would send a clear message to the galaxy. Appearance and reality were very different things, and underestimating humanity was a mistake that would not be forgotten. The Empire's mighty fleet was falling apart in Earth's orbit. Their ships, once proud symbols of galactic dominance, were now little more than targets in humanity's shooting gallery. Commander Ross watched helplessly as another cruiser exploded, its debris joining the growing cloud of wreckage around his command ship. "Sir, we've lost contact with 60% of our fleet," Turner reported, his voice trembling. "The human weapons, they're not just advanced, they're specifically designed to counter our defenses." Ross slammed his fist on his command console. "Order all surviving ships to concentrate their fire on the lunar base. If we can take out their command center." He never finished the sentence. The lunar surface suddenly rippled like water, revealing massive cannon arrays hidden beneath a holographic camouflage system. Beams of concentrated energy lanced out, cutting through the Empire's strongest shields like they were made of paper. In the lunar command center, Admiral Stone watched the battle with cold satisfaction. "Status of the Mars batteries?" she asked. "Captain Miller reports all systems performing above expected parameters," Wells answered. "The Empire's ships are trapped between our crossfire. They've lost their ability to coordinate their defense." On Earth, the ground battle had turned into a complete rout. Commander Peters and his surviving troops had been herded into containment zones by Earth's forces. The humans' advanced battle suits made the Empire's armor look like children's toys. Every piece of technology the humans revealed was decades ahead of what the Empire possessed. "This is Ground Force 7, a panicked voice crackled over the Empire's command frequency. "They're everywhere. The buildings, the roads, even the trees, they're all part of their weapon systems." Stone smiled at the chaos in the enemy communications. Earth's defense systems had been built into the very infrastructure of their cities. What looked like ordinary streetlights were actually energy weapon mounts. Park benches concealed shield generators. Even the trees in some areas were advanced sensor arrays disguised with living plant tissue. "Launch the hunter-seekers," Stone ordered. "Let's show them what else we've been hiding." From hidden silos across Earth, thousands of small dart-like vessels emerged. These autonomous weapons had been specifically programmed with the Empire's tactical patterns. They swarmed through space, targeting the weak points in enemy ship designs that Earth had spent years studying. Ross watched in horror as the hunter-seekers tore through his remaining ships. "How did they know?" he whispered. "How did they know exactly where to hit us?" The answer came in the form of a transmission from Earth's command. Major Baker's voice was calm and professional. "Did you really think those civilian ships you encountered over the years were just traders and explorers? We've been studying you for decades. Every weakness, every flaw in your designs. We know them all." In Washington, D.C., Peters and his troops had been completely surrounded. The ground beneath their feet suddenly transformed, revealing it was actually a massive detention system. Energy fields sprang up, creating containment cells that their weapons couldn't penetrate. "Attention Empire forces," a voice announced from hidden speakers. "Your weapons have been neutralized. Your ships are destroyed. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to galactic law. The same law you ignored when conquering peaceful worlds." Stone opened a channel to the asteroid belt bases. "Begin final phase. Target any ships attempting to flee." Hidden facilities throughout the asteroid belt activated. What the Empire had dismissed as random space rocks were actually disguised weapon platforms. Any Empire ship that tried to escape Earth's energy web found itself caught in a new killing zone. "Admiral," Wells reported, "we're detecting power spikes from the Empire's command ship. They're trying to activate their mass destruction weapons." Stone's expression hardened. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Show them our final surprise." Across the solar system, a new type of energy field activated. The Empire's most powerful weapons, their planet killer devices, simply powered down. Earth had developed a system that could shut down any energy source using Empire technology. "Impossible," Ross shouted as his ship's systems went dark. "No civilization has this level of technology. You're supposed to be primitives." The response came from Admiral Stone herself, broadcast across all frequencies. "We learned long ago that appearing weak was our greatest strength. Your Empire saw what it wanted to see. A primitive world ripe for conquest. What you actually found was a civilization that had surpassed you in every way." The few surviving Empire ships hung powerless in space, their crews watching in stunned silence as Earth's full military might reveal itself. Hidden bases on every planet and moon in the solar system activated. Defense platforms emerged from gas giant storms. Even the sun itself hosted disguised sensor arrays. Peters, watching from his containment cell on Earth, finally understood the full scope of humanity's deception. Every piece of primitive technology had been a carefully crafted fake. The humans hadn't just prepared for invasion. They had created an entirely new type of planetary defense, one based on deception and hidden strength. "Admiral," Wells reported, "the Empire's command ship is sending out a distress signal." Stone nodded. "Let them. In fact, help boost their signal. I want their entire empire to see what happened here." The signal went out, carrying with it sensor data and battle recordings. The Empire's mighty invasion fleet had been reduced to floating wreckage. Their ground forces were captured. Their most advanced weapons had been rendered useless, and humanity was just getting started. Ross stood on his powerless bridge, watching as Earth's forces moved in to capture his command ship. The supposedly primitive planet had just demonstrated military technology that would revolutionize warfare across the galaxy, and they had kept it all hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to spring their trap. Stone looked at the tactical display showing the Empire's devastated forces. Earth's deception had worked better than anyone had hoped. But this was more than just a victory. It was a message to the galaxy. Humanity had proven that true strength lies not in displaying power, but in knowing when to hide it. 3 days after the battle, Commander Ross stood in a large meeting room on Earth, his hands bound by energy restraints. Through the room's massive windows, he could see the wreckage of his once mighty fleet being methodically dismantled by Earth's recovery ships. Each piece was carefully studied before being recycled. The humans were still learning, still improving their technology by examining the Empire's failures. Admiral Stone entered the room, accompanied by Major Baker and Captain Miller. They wore simple military uniforms without elaborate decorations, another stark difference from the Empire's showy style. They sat across from Ross at a plain table, their expressions neutral. "Why am I still alive?" Ross asked, breaking the silence. "You destroyed my fleet, captured my troops. Why keep the commander of a failed invasion?" Stone studied him for a moment. "Because you're going home, Commander. You're going to deliver our message." Ross laughed bitterly. "What message? That you tricked us, that you hid your true strength, that we gave you a choice," Baker said firmly. "We always give a choice before we strike back." Miller slid a data device across the table. "Your scout ships entered our system 6 months ago. We detected them immediately. We could have destroyed them, but we didn't. We let them scan our defenses. We let them report back." Ross stared at the device. "You wanted us to attack." Stone nodded. "We've been watching your empire expand for decades, conquering peaceful worlds, exploiting their resources, enslaving their people. You were coming for Earth eventually. We just decided to control when and how that happened." On the device, Ross could see recordings from dozens of hidden cameras placed throughout the solar system. His scout ships had been tracked from the moment they arrived. Earth had known everything. Their numbers, their weapons, their tactics. "But your technology," Ross said, bewildered. "It's beyond anything we've seen. How did you develop all this in secret?" Baker smiled slightly. "Did you ever wonder why we never joined the galactic community? Why we kept our space exploration limited and our communications basic? It wasn't because we couldn't advance further. It was because we were watching and learning." Stone stood and walked to the window. "When humanity first detected alien signals 200 years ago, we made a decision. Instead of announcing ourselves, we would observe. We intercepted transmissions, studied technology, and learned about the major powers, including your empire. And we didn't like what we saw," Miller added. "Conquest, exploitation, domination. So Earth united with a single purpose: to develop in secret, to appear primitive, and to prepare for the day we would need to defend ourselves." Outside the window, a new group of ships rose from Earth's surface, sleek vessels with technology Ross couldn't even begin to understand. They moved with impossible grace, taking up defensive positions around the planet. "But now the secret is out," Ross said. "The entire galaxy will know what Earth is capable of." Stone turned back to him. "Yes, and that's exactly what we want. Your empire and others like it thrive by bullying those you perceive as weak. We needed to show the galaxy that appearance and reality can be very different things." In orbit above Earth, the final group of captured Empire troops was being loaded onto a transport ship. Unlike the rest of the invasion force, these soldiers would return home. They would carry with them recordings of Earth's defenses, demonstrations of human technology, and the story of how the Empire's greatest fleet was defeated by a world they thought was defenseless. The transport will take you and a small contingent of your officers back to Empire space, Baker explained. The rest of your forces will remain here as our guests until proper diplomatic relations can be established. Ross looked up in surprise. You're not going to execute us, or turn this into a counter-invasion? Stone shook her head. That's not who we are, Commander. We defended ourselves, and now we're sending you home with a message and an offer. Miller passed across another data device. This contains our terms. We've already transmitted them to your government, but we want you to deliver them personally. You've seen what we can do. They'll believe you. The terms were surprisingly reasonable. Earth wanted formal recognition of its sovereignty, non-aggression pacts, and the freedom of several worlds the Empire had recently conquered. In exchange, they offered limited technology sharing and assistance with certain galactic challenges, like resource scarcity and interstellar travel efficiency. Your leaders have 3 standard months to respond, Stone said. During that time, we'll maintain our defensive posture but take no aggressive action. Ross studied their faces, and if they refuse, if they decide to return with an even larger fleet. For the first time, Stone smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Then they'll discover that what you saw was only a fraction of Earth's true capabilities. We revealed enough to win this battle, not everything we can do. In the Lunar Command Center, Lieutenant Wells was monitoring transmissions from across the galaxy. News of Earth's victory was spreading fast. Already, representatives from 3 different galactic alliances had sent messages requesting diplomatic contact. The balance of power was shifting. The transport ship is ready, Admiral, Wells reported as Stone returned to the command center. Good, she replied. Begin Phase 5. It's time to bring our other ships home. Ross, now aboard the transport with his surviving officers, watched in shock as new vessels appeared near Jupiter. These weren't Earth defense ships. They were deep space vessels, returning from missions to distant stars. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their technology. They'd been exploring the galaxy in secret for decades. We tracked 43 habitable worlds beyond Empire space, Baker told him before he boarded the transport. We've established peaceful contact with 18 non-Empire civilizations. You weren't containing us, Commander. We were containing you. As the transport cleared the solar system, Ross took one last look at Earth. The seemingly primitive blue planet now stood revealed as one of the most advanced civilizations in known space. They had perfected the art of deception, turning it into their greatest defense. In her office on the lunar base, Admiral Stone looked at the reports coming in from across Earth. The hidden defense systems were being returned to standby mode. The underground bases were resuming their normal operations, and on the surface, life continued as if nothing had happened. Parks were full of children playing. Cities buzzed with activity. The people of Earth had faced a galactic invasion, and most had gone about their day normally. Any final thoughts, Admiral? Miller asked as they prepared to return to Mars. Stone looked at the starfield visible through her window. The Empire thought Earth was defenseless until we fired back. Let's make sure the rest of the galaxy understands the lesson. Never judge a civilization by what it chooses to reveal. Across the stars, the Empire's leaders received the first distress signals. Their invincible fleet had been destroyed, their ground forces captured, and a supposedly primitive world had revealed itself to be a technological powerhouse. The message attached to these signals was simple but clear. Earth was open to friendship or prepared for war. The choice was theirs. The Empire had thought Earth was defenseless until it fired back. Now they, and the rest of the galaxy, would never make that mistake again.